What's more important than discovering an already released title? Well, there are varying answers, but the one that sticks out to me is the hype. Learning about games that are already out is one thing, but hearing about unreleased titles is an entirely different one. That's what I'll be covering today, some upcoming Steam games that I think are worth wishlisting. There's no point in dragging this intro any further, so let's get right into the games. The first game we have here is obviously the one I am most excited for. I've been a big fan of the Masters of the Universe show since I was a kid. One of the ones that played on free cable was He-Man, and that was shortly followed by She-Ra. After the disappointment of both Netflix shows, I had lost faith in the brand. It felt like a fading memory that nobody would really care about. But with the announcement of a new live-action movie, we'll see how this one goes, interest in the series has picked back up again. Not to mention the crossovers that have been happening in recent times. This new game is a beat-em-up that is being developed by Bitmap Bureau. They've already made a game in the genre with Final Vendetta, which has positive reviews. So I'm fairly confident that this new He-Man title will be decent. They are also behind the Terminator 2 retro-styled game, and it looks very faithful to the source material. I have little doubt that they won't pay homage to the He-Man series here. This is my most anticipated title on this list, and I do hope it ends up being a treat. The second game here is SpeedRunners 2 King of Speed. This game announcement had taken me by surprise as I didn't think there'd be a sequel. The last game was fully 2D, whereas this one is taking a more polished 3-dimensional look while also keeping the perspective of the previous title. Visually, it looks great, and I do think the 3D models were the obvious choice for a sequel. It's a relatively simple game if you've never heard of the original. It's basically Mario Kart but a parkour platformer. One game that it does resemble the most that comes to mind is Sonic Rivals. The main objective is to stay in first by using items and shortcuts. That's not an endless runner, however. Eventually the screen will create this rectangle of lava that when touched will KO you. It's a simplistic game, but that's what makes it addicting and or extremely fun to replay. It's one of those quick pick up and play titles you can bring to a party or function for some fun. I am definitely looking forward to this release. Our next title we have here is Gunmetal Gothic. As usual, I believe I first saw this game on Twitter. It's a gritty looking PS1 era game that is a co-op shooter RPG. Playing games that are set in a dark and gritty environment can be a tad depressing. When I saw that it was going to have online co-op, it then piqued my interest. I almost compared it to Resident Evil gameplay, but looking at it again, I can't really say that. I hate to compare, but it's hardwired into our brains to try and relate one thing to another. Though when all you have to talk about is a video and some screenshots, all you can do is equate it to something similar. I will forever be starstruck by any game that even remotely resembles the Polygon era of gaming, and this is no different. Gunmetal Gothic is planned to release in early access in 2026 with an expected 2 years in that state. As of this recording, it is stated that the game will be cheaper in early access but will not be any higher than 20 USD once it's completed. All in all, I am relatively excited for this game. The next game is an interesting one, Bobo Bay. I've heard many things about how beloved the Chow Garden is from the Sonic Adventure titles. I also know that it's the one thing Sega has never gone back to, so it's no surprise to see a game dev finally take the reins and make it themselves. I've never been interested in the Chow section of the adventure games. However, with it being a game of its own now, it won't feel like a side quest anymore. If you've never seen or played in the Chow Garden, it's basically a Tamagotchi or Digimon simulator. You get a pet, you train them, and then you put their skills to the test. A fairly simple gameplay loop with its own little complexities like stats and whatnot. Customization seems to be a big focus of this game, which is very much needed when your project is based on a minigame of another larger game. A trend I've seen recently is indie developers bringing back old ideas or IPs and turning them into their own vision. That's always nice to see personally. Sometimes it may encourage the original devs to revive their franchise, kinda how I feel that Bombers did for Jet Set recently, or you get a situation where a game dev tries to revive a certain niche genre just for the original creator to do it themselves right before the indie game releases. Bobo Bay on the other hand seems to have no competition so far, so I'm sure it'll do well on its release on April 29th of this year. Not a game I'd personally be interested in right away, but it does have a charm to it, therefore I feel it appropriate to include in this video. And finally, our last game, Dinoblade. This was an unexpected title that looked very familiar the moment I saw it. Chances are, you've probably thought the same. That would be because Dinoblade, if I remember correctly, was at first a few test animations. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was ever meant to be a game at the beginning. Dinoblade is a Souls-like focused heavily on combat. The animations in combat look super sick, as you'd expect from a sword-wielding dino. The game itself seems to have taken some Japanese influence here and there. It really feels like an over-the-top anime at times, especially with some of its music tracks. Once again, I found a game I normally wouldn't be into, but the premise and what it offers is enough to pique my interest. A dinosaur doing flips and tricks with a blade in its mouth is odd, but somehow still really cool to witness. This game does have a demo as of this recording, so if you want to check it out yourself, there's that. With so many games being released every month, I figured a video spotlighting a few would be nice. I do try to stick with indie releases as those tend to get lost or overshadowed by the bigger titles. In terms of my YouTube channel, I mainly do this for the love of the game. Hopefully this video helped introduce some new games to you, and if it did, maybe consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to see games that have already been released, consider checking out my Steam game videos. With that being said, thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.